He looked at me the way no one ever had before. Or at least, that's what I believed. His eyes felt like answers. His touch felt like home. Every word he spoke seemed to fill some gap I had been carrying my whole life. And in those early days, I told myself, this is it. This is what it feels like to finally be whole. I thought he completed me. I thought every scar, every wound, every ache I carried was softened by his presence. When he was near, I felt lighter. When he was gone, I felt empty. I built my days around his approval, my nights around his comfort, my identity around his reflection. It wasn't just love, it was dependency disguised as destiny. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But at that time, I didn't want to be me. I wanted to be the version of me reflected in his eyes. The girl who was enough because he said so. The woman who felt beautiful because he looked at her that way. The human who felt whole because he promised she was. And for a while I believed it. I believed he was the missing piece. But here's the truth I couldn't see back then. When you believe someone else completes you, you hand them the power to break you. And when they do, because eventually they will, you're left not just with heartbreak, but with pieces of yourself scattered on the floor. Before I take you deeper into this story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt that too? Have you ever thought someone completed you, only to realize later you had lost yourself in the process? If you have, tell me in the comments. And tell me where you're watching from, because stories like this remind us we're not alone. I used to think love meant merging into one, that if I wasn't half of a whole, then I wasn't worth much on my own, that my cracks could only be filled by his presence, that my brokenness was something only his love could heal. But here's the irony. His love wasn't healing me, it was hiding me, and the cracks I thought he filled, they were only covered, never closed. So when it all broke, I wasn't just left with heartbreak. I was left shattered, because I thought he completed me, until the day came when I had to pick up my own pieces. The illusion of completion is powerful. It convinces you that what you feel isn't just love, it's destiny. When I first met him, it was like someone had switched the lights on. Every word he spoke seemed profound. Every smile felt like sunlight. He wasn't just a partner, he was the answer I had been waiting for, or at least that's what I told myself. I began to rewrite my own story around him. My favorite songs became the ones he loved. My schedule bent to match his. My dreams shifted so they could fit neatly beside his vision of the future. I wasn't building a life with him. I was disappearing into his life and calling it completion. Carl Jung called this projection, when we place the parts of ourselves we don't recognize or accept onto another person. And that's exactly what I did. I projected my missing pieces onto him, my worth, my joy, my sense of belonging, all the things I didn't yet know how to claim on my own. And he loved being the answer. He loved being the sun I revolved around. Because when you hand someone that kind of power, it flatters them. It makes them feel indispensable. But here's the danger. When you believe someone else completes you, you stop believing in your own wholeness. Every time he pulled away, I panicked. Every time he got quiet, I felt like I was vanishing. Every time he left the room, it was as if my air had gone with him. I confused his presence with oxygen. I mistook his affection for proof that I deserved to exist. And so, when the cracks began to show, when the argument started, when his attention wandered, when his promises broke, I told myself this was just what love was supposed to be. I believed the pain was the price for keeping my missing piece close. But what I didn't see then was that real love doesn't erase you. Real love doesn't demand that you vanish in order to feel whole. Real love doesn't make you smaller so someone else can feel bigger. The day the illusion shattered wasn't even dramatic. It was ordinary, a small fight, a broken promise, a silence that felt heavier than usual. And suddenly I felt it, the emptiness, the realization that I wasn't whole, not because he left me, but because I had left myself. That's the danger of believing someone completes you. When they falter, you collapse. And collapse I did. That was the beginning of the shattering. When the shattering came, it wasn't just about him, it was about me. I thought losing him meant losing love. But what I really lost was the illusion that someone else could make me whole. It started small. The arguments stretched longer. The apologies grew shorter. The silences became normal, like a permanent guest in the room. And then came the day when the silence didn't end, the day when I realized he wasn't coming back, not the way he used to be, not the way I needed. And suddenly, there I was, surrounded by pieces. Pieces of promises that had fallen apart, pieces of a future I thought was guaranteed, pieces of myself I had given away without noticing. And the worst part, I didn't know how to put myself back together, because for so long I had believed he was the glue. Carl Jung said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And in those early days of heartbreak, that was exactly what terrified me. To accept myself meant to face the truth, that I wasn't broken because he left. I was broken because I had abandoned myself to keep him close. Picking up the pieces was slow, painful, messy. At first, I tried to rush it. I tried to fill the silence with distractions. Friends, work, noise, anything to avoid looking at the fragments of myself scattered on the floor. But no matter how busy I made myself, the ache remained. Because healing doesn't come from avoiding the pieces. Healing comes from holding them. So little by little, I began. I picked up the piece of my voice, the one I had quieted to keep the peace. I started speaking again, even if my voice shook. I picked up the piece of my joy, the one I had hidden when it didn't match his moods. I let myself laugh again, even if it felt strange at first. I picked up the piece of my dreams, the ones I had put on a shelf to follow his. I dusted them off, even if they scared me now. Every piece hurt to touch. Every piece reminded me of how much I had given away. But every piece also reminded me of this: I was still here. Let me ask you, have you ever had to gather yourself back up after someone broke the illusion of completion? Have you ever sat with your own pieces, not knowing if you could ever feel whole again? That's where I was, scattered but beginning. Because the truth is, no one else can pick up your pieces for you. You have to do it yourself. And that was the lesson heartbreak gave me. Picking up the pieces was only the beginning. What came next was harder, rediscovering who I was without him. Because here's the truth, when you give so much of yourself away, when you build your identity around someone else, you forget what it feels like to stand alone. You forget your own shape. You forget your own voice. I remember the first time I tried to do something just for me. It was simple. I went back to an old hobby I had abandoned years before. At first it felt awkward, almost like meeting a stranger. But slowly I felt it, the spark of joy that had nothing to do with him. A joy that belonged only to me. Carl Jung believed that individuation, the process of becoming whole, isn't about finding someone to complete you. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you've denied, and that's what I was learning. I started reconnecting with the girl I had been before him, the girl who loved to read late into the night, the girl who dreamed of traveling alone, the girl who had opinions, desires, ambitions, and wasn't afraid to speak them. Piece by piece, I was finding her again. But here's the most important part. I also began discovering the woman I had never allowed myself to be. Stronger, softer, more certain, more free. I realized that wholeness doesn't come from being completed by someone else. Wholeness comes from finally accepting all of yourself. The messy parts, the wounded parts, the forgotten parts. And with every piece I picked up, with every part I reclaimed, I began to see the truth. I had always been whole. I just didn't know it. Let me ask you, have you ever had to rediscover yourself after losing someone you thought was your missing piece? Have you ever realized that the parts you thought they gave you were yours all along? That's the gift of heartbreak. It strips away the illusions. It forces you to face yourself. And if you're brave enough, it teaches you this: you don't need someone else to complete you. You were never half. You were always whole. And the pieces you pick up, they don't make you dependent again. They make you stronger. They make you real. They make you free. He didn't complete me. He broke me in ways I didn't expect, but the truth is, I had already given him the power to do so, because I believed the lie that I was incomplete on my own. And when it all shattered, I had no choice but to face the truth. I had to pick up my own pieces, and in that process, I discovered something life-changing. I was never missing anything. I was never half a person waiting for another half. I was already whole. I just needed to remember. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And that's what this journey gave me. The courage to accept myself, to love myself, to stop looking for someone else to give me what was mine all along. Yes, heartbreak hurt. Yes, losing him felt like losing the future I thought I needed. But in reality, losing him gave me back the most important thing I had lost: me. And now, I no longer look for someone to complete me. I look for someone to share with me, to walk beside me, not fill me, to complement me, not define me. Because I've learned this: the only person who can pick up your pieces is you. And when you do, when you choose yourself, when you gather every fragment of your soul back into your hands, you realize you were always enough. Let me ask you one last time. Have you ever mistaken someone else for your missing piece? And what part of yourself are you ready to reclaim today? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe if this story touched you, because here we tell the truth about heartbreak, healing, and wholeness. Share this with someone who needs to remember they are not half of anything. They are already whole. And I'll leave you with Jung's words one last time. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. I thought he completed me, but the truth is, I was always complete. And picking up my own pieces was how I finally remembered.